Welcome to another episode of the Fired Up for Friday podcast, the podcast letting you know what has me fired up for this Friday, July 31st, 2026. We're already through July and we had such a killer year of releases. I can't believe we've had this much heavy and that we're through July already. So without further ado, let's dive on in and see what has me fired up. Seems like everything's on fire and we're all about to melt. And the land down under in Australia must be sweltering. Complexant releases one burly debut full-length album in Apex, a collaboration between Bleeding Art Collective and Blood Blast Distribution. And while this is black and death at the heart and the core of things, there's so much more involved in this album. It has groove, it has some melodic moments, and even some clean singing that I actually enjoyed. And it's that clean singing and those little melodic nuances that are sprinkled throughout this entire album that balances out this kangaroo of carnage known as Complexant. This is my first introduction to these Aussies, and a hell of an introduction it was. Changing tempos and styles throughout this entire album, Apex is heavily textured and in all the right departments. With that string department having the apex or pinnacle of guitar tones, I loved them. They were saturated, they were thick, and they were heavy as hell. In a vocal style that reminds me of one of my favorite vocalists in metal today, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, but at times he dips his toe into more of a cleaner, grittier bit of singing that reminds me of Phil Anselmo from Pantera and about 100 other projects like Down, Housecore Records, all those kind of things. The clean singing is used sparingly, and that's awesome because that allows the clean singing to be a nice contrast to that crunchy, blackened vocals that I'm used to and love. Drums are a constant barrage, and mixed with my tinnitus, sounds like one big ass wall of sound, and I couldn't have asked for more. This album will please a lot of fans, whether you're a fan of that blackened death metal, or fans of more melodic metalcore, and some of those other bands that I feel are at like the crossroads of several different genres. Whether it's Killswitch Engage, and I know they're metalcore, but they have some other moments and influences. But Killswitch Engage and Trivium, but I also think this will please fans of bands like Face Yourself and Signs of the Swarm. So if you're a fan of death metal, deathcore, just straight metal, metalcore, check this apex of an album out, and I'm giving this charred, blackened briquette of a debut album in '87, phenomenal debut album from Complexant. And this is a great way to start your Friday listens. What are you excited for this Friday? Please tell me in the comments. No one ever tells me what they're checking out. I need some new metal too. It's a two-way street with us. Help you, help me, help you. Now with Complexant being so damn good and heating up my headphones, I feel like we should turn on some AC and seek some refuge from that last onslaught of an album. An icy black metal offering from Västmanland, Sweden. Is that a real place or is that just a fictional place? I'm looking that up after this podcast, because if you're from Västmanland, Sweden, why wouldn't you be a black metal album? But Sweden's GAST dropped their album Förbannelser, I hope I pronounced that right, which translates out to The Curse, coming off of Horror Pain Gore Death Records. And Förbannelser sends shivers and chills down my spine as you can almost imagine the vocalist just frozen breath and fog coming like in winter, preaching the gospel of Swedish folklore, death, decay, and the pitfalls of mankind, all the contents that go into making one kick-ass black metal album. And again, if you come from a place called Västmanland, Sweden, well, what did you expect? Pop rock and ballads? Come on, it's Swedish metal. And while Förbannelser's only 4 songs, they make them count, as they all stay in that same vein and style of black metal, but each benediction of dereliction offers enough in variety and tempo changes, ominous feels and pitch black atmospheres, which had me looking for some light at the end of the tunnel. And if this is what darkness sounds like, I might burn my eyes out. And I'm giving this album an 84. And why an 84? Because there's only 4 songs. If there was more, maybe it would have had an 85 or an 86. But with it being this damn good, you gotta give me more. What the hell's 4? Why only 4? 5, even 10 sounds better than 4. Please check this album out. You don't want to miss GAST's Förbannelser, which I probably pronounced wrong this whole video. And just like the temperatures of summer, these fiery releases roll on to the next submission for this Fired Up Friday. And we got the Southwest Heat coming from Arsis Thesis, who weaves in and out of styles, genres, and most importantly my ears with their debut full length, Ustanak. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but hell, I tried. From sludge and doom to mathcore and pretty much any other sound that you could want in a rock and metal album. Sometimes it's hardcore punk, sometimes it's unhinged aggression, sincere, chaotic, soulful, passionate. These are the words that come to mind with this one dynamic album. These dudes really know how to use layers and effects quite well when writing and structuring their songs. If this is a debut album, how the hell are you supposed to top it? I'm giving this one an 87 because this is the truth and the light that we need in these very dark times. And if it wasn't the truth, maybe it was just their fiery spirits. No matter what political party you root for, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, we can all agree that Washington, D.C. is one big cesspool of depression, corruption, and even worse, that damn Capitol Beltway. Oh, what a horrible design 495 is. Oh, how I hate that Beltway. And rising above all that filth, cesspool, and gridlock traffic, it's Washington, D.C.'s Dead Meadow, who are some old school rockers releasing their latest full length, Foundlings, and it's off of the only label that's probably beefy enough to handle this much psych. Heavy psych sounds, of course. It's written in the title, like heavy psych sounds, and that's what this album is, so why wouldn't it be the perfect label for it? So stick around and see how Dead Meadows accomplished the impossible. And this will please a wide array of rock fans. Whether you're a fan of The Doors, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Violent Femmes, and maybe even some newer bands like Baroness Kylesa and that stoner rock groove, just kick-ass sounding bands, where the flawless production and mixing allows each member their time to shine, with the drummer just wrapping everything up in this nice, neat little package for me, weaving those tempos and textures together. But he also had great feels of where to lean in and where to pull back on the reins. Really enjoyed the drumming on this. And they did the impossible, they did. They actually made the Beatles sound good. I hate the Beatles, so overrated. You a Beatles fan? Let me know in the comments if you like that terrible music. If you're a fan of those rock bands that kind of experiment a little bit, whether it be Modest Mouse, You're at the Drive-Ins, and so many more, you just have to check this album out. I'm giving this an 85. This is another amazing week, obviously, and there's still so much more. Sometimes brutal death metal and extreme metal is exactly that. Extreme in pushing boundaries, limits, norms. All of these are done in the debut full-length, spawned in Viscera by Divulsive off of Comatose Records, pushing the limits of pain, frustration, and snare drum abuse, pushing it all right over the edge. This is an album that doesn't take the subgenre titles of brutal death and extreme metal lightly. Buried guitars with racing rhythms and a snare drum that truly received just an ass whooping. And a vocalist who kind of sounds like he's drowning in that blood and carnage he's singing about. Maybe this is a biography? I don't know. And what feels almost like shock rock, lyrics are impossible for me to make out. But I'm assuming they're not about bacon muffins and petting unicorns. Brutal death metal, as I say all the time, is probably one of my least favorite subgenres of metal, as it takes an absolute ton of grotesque to shock me. And I'll be honest, nothing's scarier than when I look in the mirror. I mean, come on, you see it. It ain't easy. This is for fans of devourment, disgorge, regurgitation, all those hopeless romantics that you've come to know and love. And like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of brutal and extreme death metal, so I'm gonna give this one a 71. But just because it isn't for my ears, doesn't mean it's not for yours. If you're a fan of brutal death metal, I think you'll love this. It's great for what it is. It's just not for me. But that's the beauty of art. It's subjective. So tell me what your favorite brutal death metal band is, and I promise you, I'll check them out. And if I like them, I'll come back and let you know that I like them. Maybe it'll win me over. And if you're like me and you don't like brutal death metal, let me know what your favorite subgenre of metal is in the comments. To wrap up this week's new releases, we have German hard rock and heavy metal band Sinner, who's releasing their swan song of an album, Boom Bang Goodbye, off of Reigning Phoenix Music, who's having a killer year this year. Starting way back in '82, Matt Sinner is the mastermind behind this project that's been churning out phenomenal releases, culminating into one last one. And Boom Bang Goodbye was sadly my first introduction to Sinner, and it was love at first sound. As soon as I pressed play, something felt extremely comfortable and I felt right at home. Sure, I've heard similar tones before, and these ones are great. I get the feels of 80s and 90s, Dawkins, George Lynch, the Lynch Mob, Van Halen feels, and as much as I've listened to all those bands, those weren't what caught my ear. And finally, halfway through this album, I realized what it was. Sometimes the most important part of the band is the chemistry and the makeup of its members. And while Sinner has an excellent supporting cast at every instrument, and there's quite a few instruments on this album, it was that damn Ronnie Romero who sounded so familiar and so damn good. He's on half the releases I've listened to this year. Does he even sleep? Quickly becoming one of my favorite frontmen in metal, his passionate cleans mesh so well with those bright leads from the guitar work, putting multiple exclamation points all over this storied career. And I discovered Mr. Romero at the best concert that I ever attended. He fronted Michael Schenker at Jurgles in Warrendale, PA, where I was only mere feet from the legendary Michael Schenker. But it was Ronnie who helped command the crowd with Michael Schenker. I get the same exact feelings when I listen to this killer album. And this is way higher than I anticipated this album to be, but I'm giving it an 88 because it feels like it comes from that year. But with that phenomenal production and mixing, I have to be honest, I lost a couple points just because I know this is the last coming from them. Good thing they released Boom Bang Goodbye before they called it quits, because this is way too good of an album to keep to yourself. This is for fans of the heavyweights, the Maidens, the Priests, the Dawkins, the Lynch. Just go check this album out, it's great. And now, the album of last week. It's been a difficult week for a lot of folks, especially with the passing of Sick of It All's Lou Kohler. I was a fan ever since Sick of It All dropped, scratched the surface, and I picked it up in my local record shop as a young teenager. I'd be lying to say that it didn't have an impact on me about brotherhood, loyalty, friendships, and staying true to oneself. Something that I think we all could use a reminder today, especially if you work in government. So when old school legends and Madball dropped another hardcore album in this year's Not Your Kingdom, it was a bit of comfort, reminding me that the world in metal goes on with or without us. The beautiful thing about metal is, it's here forever. We can all go back and hear Lou's vocals. We can also keep plowing ahead and building upon those legends. And Madball did that here, building upon their storied career. And as a juggernaut hardcore band, Madball seems to be doing this for as long as I can remember. I'm not sure if there's anybody better than that Madball, Agnostic Front, Sick of It All trifecta. You got a couple other ones in there. I don't mean to be rude or leave you out. And just as I expected when I pressed play on this Madball album, I was greeted with those old school sounds and attitudes, and just what I expected from these long-time legendary heroes. And with timing being everything in life, could we have had this at any better time? All right, another week in the books. What I get right, what I get wrong, what are you looking out for on this Friday? What has you fired up? Please let me know. And most importantly, thank you for hanging out with me one more week. It means a lot. See you in the pit.